Welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show. Hey guys, welcome to episode 32 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and today I am joined by the lovely Miss Abbie Eaton. For those who don't know about Abbie, well, you'll have to stay tuned to listen to her awesome story about her career in motorsport. But she is on loan from the UK. She's a TV media personality, currently a part of the Grand Tour, and has currently been testing with Walkinshaw and Matt Stone Racing. She is looking to secure a drive in Super 2's in 2019 V8 Supercar Championship, studying in Adelaide in March. Please help me welcome Abbie to the show. Welcome to the show, Abbie.
Thanks for that. Thanks for having me on.
So what brought you to Oz? Of all the places in the world that you could have gone to pursue your racing career, why have you decided to come to Australia and pursue?
So basically, I've always been interested in the Australian supercars. Ever since I was a young kid, I've just, when you watch them on the television and so on, you just think they look absolutely ridiculously good fun. And kind of probably the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've kind of got into maybe a bit more motivated to actually do something about it, because my dad actually bought a Holden Commodore from 1983.
Yeah.
So he had that brought across and kind of stored it, and it's basically a replica of Peter Brock's Bathurst livery from '83. So obviously in the UK it attracts quite a lot of attention, and it's just a proper old school car that you've got to drive properly. In a way, the kind of modern V8 supercars are very similar to that, because you haven't got any of the kind of driver aids that in GT cars, which is what I usually race, I've got. So it's just down to the driver and the car, and it's when you have the two meshed together and it's in kind of harmony with each other, then that's when you get the drivers at the top of the field that you have today.
Yeah, and so is supercars big over in UK? I guess for us here, it's our sport, we love it. What's it like overseas watching the supercars?
I think if you ask any proper racing driver, if you say, right, money's not an issue, it doesn't matter if you've got to do this or got to do that. One race championship that you want to do and you want to have fun in and race with your friends or whatever, what would it be? Everyone would say the Australian supercars, because they're just, as I say, they just look so much fun to drive, and it's just like a big go-kart. But because there isn't any kind of technology to kind of, I guess in GT cars, in kind of amateur professional stuff, the cars make it easier for the amateur drivers to be closer to the pros. Whereas in these ones, it is just every single driver in the top 10 is a proper professional driver, and they're absolutely wicked at it. And it's a proper art to watch, and it's just incredible. I can't walk past the TV with it on without stopping and watching for a bit.
Yeah. And what do you love about it? Just that, I mean, obviously now you've driven one, but before that, what was the attraction towards it? Just the racing.
Yeah, just the raw power of it all. It's just, it's not, about 600 odd brake, it's got a lot of power under your right foot, but it's just you haven't got any technology to catch you if anything goes wrong. So if the driver makes a mistake, it's going to bite you, and that's the kind of draw, because I think quite a lot of cars now, especially with hybrid technology and everything is all kind of moving forward with state-of-the-art stuff, whereas supercars, it's all very the all of it, and the raw kind of power and nature of it is just basic car. You've got 4 wheels, you've got a steering wheel, and where you go, and it's the best driver wins.
Yeah, and I know for a fact that you would know about racing different types of cars because you were on the Grand Tour last year as the test driver. So you obviously got to test a lot of different vehicles. What does a kind of a V8 supercar equate to, I guess, in the UK, or power-wise or driving ability-wise? What have you put it in line with? I
mean, because it's such a big kind of heavy car, there isn't really anything race-wise in the UK that you can kind of compare it to, kind of like for like. Kind of probably the most like for like are the older cars, like the one that my dad's imported across and stuff like that. But they kind of, I guess, in terms of weight and power, kind of power to weight ratio, the GT cars are very similar. But as I said, they've just got so much technology with it that it's just a complete different ball game. Yeah, I mean, when you're so lucky to drive all the different cars that I do on the Grand Tour and other things and my other parts of my work, you get spoiled with the cars that you drive. My dream car growing up was an Aston Martin. When I was a little kid, I was like, I want an Aston Martin. They're amazing. I love them. And as soon as I jumped in and drove one, I was a bit like, Oh, that's what I was expecting. Yeah. And that's just because I'm so lucky to get to drive all the other kinds of cars that are out there. And, it's not a bad car at all, but in the grand scheme of things, and it depends what kind of driver you are as to what you want out of a car. And if you want it to be a nice, cruisy, comfortable car for mileage, but still beautiful and still pack a punch, then you get an Aston Martin. But obviously, my involvement in motorsport, I want something that's raw and aggressive and it's going to try and bite me all the time. So it just depends what kind of car you're into, I guess.
Yeah, so Abbie, let's go a little bit deeper into your career into motorsport. So you started racing go-karts when you were 10, thanks to your dad. What's your journey been like to today? How have you been able to achieve everything you have at the tender age of 28?
27, just 27.
Oh, 27, sorry, 27. I just saw you had a birthday, so I was like, okay,
yeah. Only just, I'm already like 27, I'm nearly 30. That must mean I need to have like all my stuff together by now, and I'm still playing racing cars. Yeah, so started when I was 10 years old, but the journey for me, I guess, started much younger with obviously following my dad around when he was racing. So I was at a track when I was about 2 months old in a pushchair, and every single race weekend that my dad did, I was there, growing up around it, oil under my nails, just getting grubby and just a proper racing kid. And it took a couple of years of kind of pestering my dad to get me a go-kart to actually kind of start and get going. And once he did, I think probably the first time I drove it, it was in a car park, and I just kept doing donuts, and in the end I bent the clutch out.
Yeah.
And I think at that point my dad was just like, oh, what have I done? I've let her loose now. What have I done? So yeah, from then it's been kind of 17 years of, a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifices. And I'm not from a family that's got a load of money, which a lot of people in motorsport, because it is that kind of an industry, it's a business and it's a money making game and all that kind of stuff. So I've had to really graft to be able to do what I do. And people think, like, I've had some people, especially since the Grand Tour thing happened, saying, oh, silver spoon, and like with the supercar thing, well, money gets to drive and all this. And actually, of the 17 years that I've raced, I've only ever done 5 full race seasons. So from the first race all the way through to the last race, I've only ever done five times. Yes. The rest of them have all been part seasons because it's all I could afford to do. And in some ways, that's probably made me a better driver, because I know that when I jump in the car, I've got to deliver. Like I haven't had the time to test. I haven't got the best equipment perhaps underneath me, but I'm going to try and maximize what I've got to play with. And yeah, you become very adaptable to things. And I guess that's kind of shown with the Grand Tour, being able to jump in and out of different cars and set the times that I do. And thankfully, when I jumped into the supercars over the last month or so, I've been able to adapt to them very quickly as well. So it's not the easiest path to get to where I've gotten to, but in terms of a rounded driver, I think it's probably made me a better driver to get to this part as well.
So just excuse my ignorance, but is your dad like equivalent to, say, like our like a Dick Johnson when he was racing? And
he kind of probably not that big. It was like a good kind of, it's difficult to describe. It's probably like a national racer. So I guess maybe something similar to kind of the supercars, maybe one step down from the supercars, but he's done it for quite a long time. Yeah, he was known. And even now walking around the paddock, some people come up to me, they're like, "Oh, you're Paul Eaton's daughter, aren't you?" And
yeah.
Although now it's kind of changing that people go up to my dad and say, "How's Abbie? What's Abbie up to?"
That's what we want. And so, have you felt more pressure on you having that name to live up to?
No, not really.
And what about female in the sport?
To be honest, my kind of views on obviously being different in motorsport as being a female is that, like, it doesn't really enter my head, and it's not at the forefront of my mind. And it's kind of, when people ask me about it, I'm a bit like, oh yeah, I am a little bit different. And probably since the Grand Tour being kind of put in the spotlight a little bit more, I've probably had to think, actually, I am probably a little bit inspiring to those that are younger than me, or those that maybe want to get into the sport. And I'm just a girl from Yorkshire in England that is doing something that I love and that I've always loved doing. But actually, if I look at the bigger picture, it's probably something that's kind of unprecedented, especially with the Grand Tour putting me in the position that they have. That's unprecedented for any kind of big motoring show to do that and to put a female in that kind of position. So hats off to them for giving me the opportunity for that as well. But yeah, for me, I'm a racing driver that just happens to be female, and if I can use the fact that I'm different and unique to better, get more exposure for my sponsors or get more sponsors on board and that kind of stuff, I'm absolutely fine with that. But I don't want any special treatment because because I am a female. It's just up to them. If they want to give me some budget to go racing, then we will both get something positive out of it.
Yes, and I think it's time that we highlighted the fact that you did get the role over our own Mark Webber at the Grand Tours. So, have you met Mark, and have you had a relationship with him over the course of your racing time?
No, so I haven't actually met Mark. So when the kind of auditions and stuff were happening, it was all you'd have like an hour slot where it would just be you at the track with the crew, and then you'd be shipped out, and then someone else would be in for the next hour. So it was all very kind of secretive, and everything was kept hush and that kind of stuff. Yeah, those kind of things always are that kind of way. But I haven't actually had any kind of personal exposure or chat to Mark. But a funny story from this year at the Silverstone Classic, which is a big kind of classic race meeting in the UK that happens every year. And I was racing my dad's Holden in one of the championships, and we'd got some T-shirts done, so it had the big Holden car on the front, and a few of my friends were wearing them, and one of the guys, Matt, he had it on, and Mark Webber's dad was there, and he shouted at him, it's like, "Oh, Matt, are you driving that Holden?" And he was like, "No, it's Abbie," and like pointed down to me. And apparently Mark Webber's dad was like, "What? Sheila's driving that thing?" And he was like, "Oh, fair play. Wow, she's really hustling that thing." So that made me laugh. Like, obviously the typical Sheila tag for a bird, which cracked me up.
Yeah, he's an old school man from Canberra who's very proud of his dad.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, even though you've only raced five seasons, you certainly have had a great career to date, winning 2 championships, and you've had over 25 wins. What was those championships? What categories were those championships wins in? And what's been your favourite category to date so far?
So my first championship win came in 2009, and it was the production touring car championship. So it was kind of obviously production road cars that are kind of stripped out and caging and stuff like that. So kind of the theory behind it was obviously these cars you can look at on the track and think, well, actually, I've got one of those at home and I drive around in one of those kind of things. But obviously, when you look underneath it, it's all, very much a racing car. But so that was my first series in senior racing. So I did karts for 4 years, and then I moved out into cars when I was 15, and I did that for a couple of years, and then moved into the senior racing where you compete against however old kind of drivers and whatever experience. And it was just a really successful year. Kind of got on with the car and got on with the team and knuckled down and ended up winning that. Got a fair few wins in the championship overall as well. So that was a nice boost to kind of come into senior racing and to have that kind of platform to go on. And then my second championship was 2014, and that was the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. And to be honest, that was probably one of the most fun years, and it was the last year that it was done as a family run team. So my dad ran the car, he built the car, and we had my uncle as a mechanic, and one of my good family friends, Chris, is another mechanic, and Mum would be there making the bacon sandwiches in the morning and stuff like that. And it's seen as one of the toughest championships in the UK, one make championships. And in that year there was 40 cars on the grid, and I was the only girl in the championship. And there was probably 6 or 7 times throughout the year where kind of I'd be like, yep, yeah, this is looking good, and then something happened and I'd think, oh no, I've lost it, and then go again. And it was just a season of up and down. And kind of it came to the last race meeting, and I was leading by about 17 points. So there was 2 races on that the weekend, and all I needed to do was pretty much finish, and then I would have won the championship. And in the first race, my power steering pump failed because the alternator belt came off. And basically what happens is I was like, I'm not stopping because I need to keep on going, and I'm going to go until the car stops me, basically. So in the end, the engine blew up and I didn't finish. So there was this mad panic because we didn't have another car, we didn't have another engine because we're a budget, family run team. And
yeah,
we're like, what we're going to do? And my dad was like, look, I'm going to need to get an engine anyway to be able to sell it. So let's try and get one now, so at least you can try and finish the race tomorrow. So there was a scrapyard down the road, and my dad basically said, look, have you got any bashed up MX-5s that still work? And there's this one that was all smashed up, and it got shipped in. And the team worked overnight with this road car, swapping the engine over into the race car. And this was a random engine that we had no idea if it was any good or if it was even going to last or anything like that. But it was the only option that we had. And what happens in the UK, if you don't finish one race, your next race you have to start from the back. So I just said, look, I'm not going to win this. But all year it's just been about winning. And I was like, this last race I just want to enjoy. So I went out back of the grid, and I think because the pressure was off, that I ended up, I had the fastest lap by a second and a half quicker than anyone else on the grid. And all through the race I was just cutting through up to the front, and then this other guy hit me off, broke the car, hit me off. So I went crazy, and I was like, I can't believe that. Like, I've gone from just needing to finish, and then last thinking, oh, I haven't got it. Oh, I have got it. I haven't got it. And then in the end, what had happened was I won by 1 point, and that's because I got the fastest lap during that race. So I did end up still winning the championship. But like, if someone said to me now, look, if you could go back knowing that you'd still win, if you wanted to go back and do that race weekend again, would you? I'd just say no, because it was so stressful. It took probably me and the family like a month to get over it because of the emotional roller coaster that it was. But in terms of I really earned that championship. And as I say, it was so much fun because it was a family run thing, and it's got a place close to my heart for that year. But the more recent stuff has been, a big step up. With last year, for example, I was in the Ferrari 488 challenge car, and that was a friend of mine that had basically said, look, like, I want you to jump in and drive with me. So like a professional and amateur driver together. And I hadn't raced for like a year and a bit. And I'm thinking, my other friends that were competing against, the other professional drivers, I'm thinking, they're going to be like, what's she going to do, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up jumping in, and I was faster than the other professional drivers. And I was just like, oh, thank goodness. Like, again, the pressure kind of put on, but I've been able to just jump in and kind of deliver with it. So that has been another kind of personal success of mine from doing that. And then having the courage to come out here for 2 months.
So just going back to, like, you're not racing consistently and having that, obviously that major race event to win that championship. What do you feel that what do you feel that in your life that's contributed to that resilience, or that's made you have that strength? Like, obviously you have this clear talent to be able just to rock up into any car and do a fast lap. Are you like constantly doing sim racing? Is it just training? Are you visualization? Apart just from your talent, what else do you feel like that's contributed towards your success?
I think I'm very focused. And for example, like when I came out here before, I was on the sim, making sure that I knew where the track was going and making sure that I was fit enough to be able to drive the cars, and just trying to mentally put yourself in the right frame of mind so that when you jump in, you're not worrying about bits and bobs and you just kind of get on with it. And even if you haven't got that kind of luxury, because like, to go on the sim in the UK is very expensive, and it's about, for 3 hours, I think it's about the equivalent of maybe $700. So it's still an investment to put into it to obviously put yourself in a better position. So if you haven't got that, it's just on the day allowing yourself to pick up on everything. Like, there are some people that will walk in and be like, I know what I'm doing, I've done this for however long, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when I go into those situations, I'm a bit of a sponge, and I'll absorb everything I can to hopefully make the ride a little bit smoother to get to where I want to be. But in terms of the supercar test, I've had a lot of prep beforehand to obviously give myself the best opportunity out here.
And how did that opportunity come about? Were you just on TV one time and you said, hey, my ultimate goal is to race in Australia at supercars, and Matt Stone Racing gave you a call, or your manager got you a drive? Like, how did it all evolve from you coming from the UK over to Oz and actually having those test drives?
So it was down to my dad, really. So he was racing the Holden at Brands Hatch, which is a circuit in the south of the UK. And there was a couple of Aussies over there racing some cars himself. One of them, Peter Dillman, he is now kind of my Australian manager. So he raced supercars back in the day, and he basically just walked over and was like, what's this doing here? This is a long way from home. And my dad and him just kind of got chatting, and my dad was saying, look, my daughter really loves supercars. It's something that she'd love to do. Do you have any contacts out there? And blah, blah, blah. And like, apparently my dad was pestering Peter to watch my onboards and stuff like that, which I wasn't aware about. I didn't know.
Gotta love our dads.
Oh yeah, typical racing dad, which is lovely. So he's very proud. And yeah, basically said to Peter, please watch them. And he ended up kind of having a look and was a bit like, wow, this girl can actually drive. And you know, he has the tools and the contacts to be able to help me. So he brought in Joe Gardner, which was basically when he raced in supercars back in the day with the Gatorade car. Joe had put together the deal with Gatorade. So brought her on board as well, and basically those two plus my PR guy Matt Payne has just been kind of flat out trying to get me the opportunity. So the Walkinshaw test came first, and the Matt Stone test had been kind of booked in for a while before the Walkinshaw test, but yeah, both of them massive opportunities, and the team were both brilliant as well. And yeah, I've got the bug now. I want to drive some more.
And so where's it left at? Like, are you looking to do Super 2s or Super 3s or anything in 2009? What's the grand plan for 2019?
Yeah, so the plan is to do Super 2. It's just, obviously the over Christmas period has not been a perfect time to kind of get deals done and to get conversations going, but it's starting to pick up again now. So just having meetings and talks with investors and stakeholders and people like that, just to see if people are actually interested in getting on board. And you know, the biggest thing that I have kind of been a little bit overwhelmed with is the support that I've had out here from the locals, from the team, from the drivers, and you know, it's been lovely, and they've welcomed me with open arms. And the thing that I obviously is most important to me is to be able to jump in the car and be quick, and thankfully I did that in both the tests. So you know, got that bit out the way. That was the hard part done, and then the other part is just kind of working on getting the sponsors and getting the drive. So Super 2 is my aim. We're still working on it. It's just difficult with sponsors, as it is with anyone. So yeah, we haven't given up yet.
Yeah, and are you working on that yourself, or is just Joe predominantly and Matt, or are you helping out with the process? And if so, have you found the process to be different in Australia versus the UK?
So it's mainly Peter and Joe and Matt that are working on it. Their kind of mentality behind it is that, you know, they want me to be able to concentrate on the driving and the fitness and, you know, learning Adelaide, for example, before it gets to the first round, and just making sure that I'm in the right frame of mind for that. And they don't want me to worry about, you know, the other stuff, because there's a lot of pressure and bullshit that comes with that side of things, and they just want to kind of keep my head clear. But me being me and kind of being self-funded and self-motivated and all that stuff from, you know, 17 years, I'm always like, what's going on, guys? Let me know, like, well, what about this? What about that? And they're like, you stay out of it, like, you know. But
don't worry, Joe's been talking to me, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And of course, like I know Matt as well. So Matt's been a previous guest, but I've known Matt forever. So
yeah. So I mean, I've got a good team around me, and they're all working absolutely flat out. And although Joe's in Hawaii at the moment, so she'll be a bit more relaxed probably. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't given up yet, but obviously it's getting close to the first round. Coming up soon.
And if it doesn't transpire, what's plan B? Are you going to race a lower support category? Are you going to head home, or?
I don't know yet. Plan B is to try and race something out here. I'd love to, and especially if it's on the supercar package, because then it allows me to learn the tracks and just kind of get involved and, you know, be under the radar of the teams and the fans and that kind of stuff. So that would be plan B, and then it would give us at least another year to kind of work on getting the budget for next year. And to attack it properly. But if that doesn't happen, I'd love to stay out here and kind of work out here for a bit and just enjoy the kind of lifestyle. It's just, everyone's so much happier out here, and it is definitely down to the weather. As British people can be a little bit miserable, but you can't blame us because of the weather that we have to enjoy. Although we did have an amazing summer this year. It was beautiful, really, really nice. And then the football almost came home as well, but yeah, the football didn't quite happen for us, for poor England.
Well, we've got Foxtel, so you can always check in on the football. And I know you've been doing lots of travelling, and I do want to touch on that, but I just want to go back. What about the 12 hours? Has there been any expressions of interest with that coming up in February for you to get on board? Yeah,
so the kind of initial plan was to try and do the 12 hour as well, just to kind of, as a little bit of a springboard and kind of, this is me, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 before the season starts. But in the end, we just decided that it's probably better to just focus on the Super 2 season. And, you know, Bathurst is an incredible track. I've not driven it personally yet, but I've done a lot of laps on the sim with it. And it's just to drive anything around there would be an absolute dream. But I didn't want to kind of stress myself out trying to get the budget and get something for that, when actually it's one race. Yes, it's one amazing race, but I want to concentrate on the season of Super 2 instead.
And so since you've been here, what racetracks in Australia have you visited or been on?
So last year when I came out here, I went to Phillip Island, and there was GT cars going round, and I really wanted to go and just be like, please, someone, please just let me have a drive, please. I promise, I know that I'm a girl from Britain, but please, I'm actually all right. Let me have a go. But in the end, I just went around the go-kart track with my family. But one of my friends has just offered to let me have a steer around Phillip Island, but I'll be back in the UK by that time, which is a shame. So the tracks are actually driven here. So the first test with Walkinshaw was at Winton. So probably a good track to have my first experience on, because it's kind of got the really hard braking zones and, you know, the couple of faster high-speed corners. It was good fun and good place to start. And then the second test with Matt Stone Racing was at Queensland. So yeah, that was a different track altogether. Obviously fairly easy in terms of kind of, you know, there's not many corners, but all very high speed. And it's just the technique to get the cars to turn and to get the thing stopped as well. Just took a little bit of learning, but once I kind of got my head into it, it was good fun. And yeah, I just want to drive all the tracks now, but mainly Bathurst is what I want to do.
Of course you do. And so you just mentioned that you're going to go back to England. When are you planning to go back?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back on next Monday. So I'll be back just to see the family, and then I've got a ski trip in France, which has been booked for a year or so. I'm going to do that, and then I am due to come back again on February the 3rd, so start of Feb. But we'll just see how the talks go. Basically, if there's going to be kind of more meetings and stuff booked in, which there should be, then I want to be here for them and I want to be present in them, because ultimately the person that can sell
is you.
sell myself the best is me. And it's all right someone saying, you know, that I am chatty and, you know, I can speak and, you know, I'm a good ambassador, but unless I'm sat there, you know, they think that themselves, then it's just easier for me to be there. But if not, then I would love to come back out again throughout the year and yeah, just live the dream a little bit longer. I don't want to work. I don't want to go back to work.
No, and you have been living the dream, back to your travels. And so where in Oz have you been since you've been here? Love watching you.
Yeah, well, as many places as I can be, really. So the first week I spent in Sydney, so I kind of flew in and stayed at my manager's house in Sydney, and then went down to Melbourne for another week, and then went up to Brisbane for another week, and then I'm now kind of living in Newcastle, so just north of Sydney. So yeah, I'd love to kind of drive up to Bathurst as well. So if I end up coming back in February, that's what I'll probably do. I'll take a bit of a road trip up to Bathurst and see what's cracking up there. But yeah, Australia's a massive place, so I've still got lots to explore.
And so I won't keep you any longer, Abbie. I really appreciate your time tonight. I just wanted to know, do you have any advice for upcoming drivers that are wanting to race maybe internationally, and you know, how they go about fulfilling their dreams?
I think the main thing is just kind of don't give up. Motorsport is quite a fickle business, and you know, you can get knocked down a lot and you just think, why am I doing this? It's very difficult to kind of stay motivated when especially when something's your passion and your role, and you're really motivated and you want to stick with it and you want to do well, and actually no one gives you the opportunity, and you've just got to believe in yourself still and just push yourself. And if a little sniff of an opportunity happens, go in and speak to the team and find out what you need to do and just be better than everyone else. Kind of with these tests that I just did, you know, I was emailing the team the week before saying, have you got any data runs from the previous time you were there? Have you got this? Have you got that? Just so that they think that actually I am switched on and that I want to do well, because some drivers will just rock up on the day and be like, right, what's going on then? You know, what are we up to today? So yeah, just try and be better than everyone else in terms of more prepared, not in terms of dirt walking, thinking you're the best thing since whoever, and just give it your all. And if your all's not good enough, you know, you can't do anything more.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I've got a few more personal questions, nothing too daunting. So why do you hate tomatoes?
I just don't like them. I really don't like tomatoes. You know what, they look so nice, especially with balsamic vinegar and some onions. Like in France, that's all the family eat. But it's just not for me.
No?
Can't do
So
it.
mushrooms just don't like the taste or the texture, or?
Can't do the texture. Horrible. Like, I think it's because my mum used to cook really nice fajitas, chicken fajitas.
Yeah.
And she'd use like chicken thigh and she'd put bits of mushroom in.
Yeah.
And when you look down, the mushroom kind of looks like chicken. So you take a big bite and it would be a mushroom. So I think that's where I blame my mum.
You have to order a pizza with no mushroom.
Yep, no mushrooms.
And no tomato?
I can do the tomatoes. I'll just pick them off.
Oh, fair enough. And so, Abbie, through your experience, what is your favourite track in the world and why?
My favourite track that I've had the pleasure of driving or experiencing yet is probably, I love Alton Park in England. It's a track with kind of ups and downs and, you know, banked hairpin, and it's what we call a driver's track. So it has the capacity to be very dangerous. I think drivers are a little bit weird because the closer they are to death and the closer they are to something going wrong, that's when they thrive the most. And most people in the UK that have driven Alton Park love it as well. But I think if I were to drive Bathurst, it would be Bathurst.
Well, that is the most common answer here, obviously. But I also interviewed Jess Shanahan today for Get Paid to Race from the UK, and she agreed with the same track as you. So I must get over there and have a look and check it out.
yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much for your time today, Abbie. How can people get in contact with you if they want to follow your journey here in Australia?
So I've mainly been using Instagram, so my Instagram handle is Abbie Eaton 44. My Twitter is exactly the same, and my Facebook is Abbie Eaton Racing. So I just kind of post things. If you just type into Google or whatever, it should come up anyway. But yeah, more than happy. People give me a follow, give me a message, and more than happy to chat with everyone and tell everyone what's going on.
Fantastic. Well, we can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2019. Hopefully we'll see you on the starting grid of the Super 2s here in Australia. If not, I'd love to see you somewhere else in the world, and we'll look forward to following your journey. I hope to have you on a little bit maybe later on in the year to tell us about what's been happening.
Yeah, sounds good. Hopefully some racing to talk about.
Thanks very much, Abbie. Have a great time going home. Enjoy the snow, a little bit different from
I will.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe and leave us a review. Each week I'll read them out and you'll go into monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate to Tea. Until next time, take care.